What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
The Joe Rogan Experience, a.k.a. JRE, one of the biggest podcasts on the face of the planet, podcast that I've been into since the Snowflake days, a show that has inspired me and changed how I produced my old Inspired Disorder podcast, changed formatting, changed technology, produced originally by Brian Redban and now young Jamie. And just, a great show with just the overall history of the podcast is amazing. Just basic, long format interviews. Joe Rogan, stand-up comedian, MMA commentator, podcast, fucking dynamite, brings in different people and has conversations with them. From stand-up comics to business people to athletes to scientists to doctors. I've learned so much listening and watching to the Joe Rogan Experience. It's helped me grow personally, just from changing, being part of what changed my opinion towards weed, towards marijuana, got me smoking weed early, in my 30s, among other things. Introduced me to so many other stand-up comedians, other podcasts, other ways of living, from intermittent fasting to different supplements, different ways of thinking, different just how people can become epic in every kind of category of life, and how that's displayed in the show is highly inspirational to me. And it's been cool to see the evolution of the show, to go from the early days on Ustream with the Snowflakes, where it's just Redban and Joe Rogan sitting in front of a computer webcam answering questions in the chat room, to Rogan setting up a studio in a spare bedroom or like his office at home, to moving it out of his home to the Death Squad studios at the Ice House in Pasadena, and seeing the different things that happen, the drama, the Duncan Trussell versus Brian Redban feud. If anybody doesn't remember those days, they were crazy. To wake up, I remember waking up one morning, right, at my girlfriend's house, and I see on Twitter, there's this huge thing, Redban and Duncan Trussell are angry at each other, and Redban goes off, and I'm pull up the episode on my phone, and I'm watching it, and I'm watching Redban say, fuck Duncan Trussell, and all this kind of shit. He's never gonna, it's like this big drama, because Duncan wanted him to pay comics that are doing these Death Squad shows, the Ice House shows, and it makes sense. And Redban was just new. He didn't know what he was doing. He structured his business a little bit inappropriately. And, and Redban, a lot of respect for him, but he's a stubborn dude, stubborn, doesn't like to admit he's wrong, but eventually gets around to it. I think maybe it just takes some time. He has to get the right people in his ear. But he got around to it, and I happened to be at that Ice House show when Duncan and Redban reunited, and it feels so good. So then it goes from the Ice House, then it goes to, he gets his own studio, which is the look that's maintained now that Rogan is in his compound. But he went from his own studio, which was awesome. He could start doing it. Almost each time he changed studios, it ramped up the quality of the show. And he never really changed much. He's only done like one Skype interview, maybe two. It's all live in-person episodes. He has done some shows on the road, which I think he's stopped doing. He's done a few, like in the airport or in hotels. But I think because he's not traveling as much with the UFC, that there's less need to do that, and he just pumps them out like crazy. The turnover rate on the show is amazing. That was one of the things that really inspired me to get fast turnover on my episodes. But he's putting out, 2 to 3 hour long episodes, 3 times a week, 4 times a week sometimes. I've loved that Rogan added an MMA section. I mean, he talked MMA anyway, but now that he has his own dedicated MMA show, which is still produced the same as, JRE, it's just he's going to talk fights with fighters or coaches or, people that are involved in MMA or combat sports. And it's really good because, Joe Rogan's just a genius when it comes to he's an historian when it comes to MMA, and he's been with the UFC since the early days, and just extremely knowledgeable. So listening to him have long form conversations with different people in the MMA world is amazing to listen to, because there's not a whole lot of long form interviews with MMA. I mean, you look at what Ariel Helwani does, he gets a lot of interviews with fighters, but they're short interviews. I mean, maybe an hour at most he'll do. He did a special one-off with Nate Diaz, and that was like an hour and a half. And I think Ariel could do an amazing long-form interview do a similar thing, which he's done with the reporters. He's done an episode that was super long-form, but I'm not talking about Ariel Helwani in this episode. I'm going to sneeze. Talking about Joe Rogan. And but yeah, it's really cool. I mean, first off, the compound, that's like a dream of mine, to just have a warehouse that I could have everything that I want to do set up, so I can just go from one thing to the other. But instead of a gym and like a video archery setup, I would have for sure, I would still have a pool table. I would have a studio set up for painting and all kinds of different whatever artwork you want to make. I would have studio set up for recording podcasts, for video podcasts, for audio podcasts. I would have a studio set up for photography. I would have a studio set up for my graphic design and computer and editing stuff. Like, that would be a dream of mine, and just live there. Just live. I have a bed somewhere in the middle of the thing, and I just sleep in it, and I wake up, and I just walk to whatever side of the warehouse I want to go to create the thing I want to create for that day. That is a dream that has been realized by Joe Rogan that I am jealous of having. But he's been able to make it happen, and it's super interesting. I mean, he's super successful at everything he does. He does different things, but they all kind of help each other out. They're all intertwined with each other. And, I mean, him being a comedian means that he is a professional speaker. So stepping into podcasting, he's going to be able to speak better and in a funnier way than most people are. And then because of MMA, he's got different perspectives on things, and he's an athlete, so he has different perspectives on what it takes to be successful in athletics, which, if you know what it takes to be successful in athletics, then you know kind of the mentality you need to have to be successful in everything. And he has exploited that knowledge to, not only archery, which I'm sure he's really, skilled at archery since he's done it for a long time and does it consistently and practices consistently, but, everything else that he's worked on. But the Joe Rogan Experience is it's the gold standard as far as production quality. It's the gold standard as far as just not interviews, but having good conversations. And it's by far a show that I've looked up to for many reasons and inspired me in many ways over the years. But that's it for this episode of The Ray Taylor Show. Subscribe on IGTV and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at patreon.com/Inspired Disorder. InspiredDisorder.com for all of my artwork. At Ray Taylor for me. Have a great day, everybody. Peace out!